You're listening to The Stephen Tauriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Stephen Tauriello Show. And now, here's Stephen.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. This is going to be a very information-filled episode because we have a lot of stuff to go through. And I think an important thing to touch base on is FARA. Because FARA is going to be something you're going to be hearing a lot of in the coming weeks, being how Hunter Biden has just been indicted on gun charges. But really all it is just a continuation of the cover-up for Joe Biden. That's all it is. They indicted Hunter Biden on gun charges so that they can cover up for Joe Biden because the gun charges are the only crime committed that doesn't link directly to the big guy. So I want to go ahead and read this article from the New York Post because it goes into a lot of this stuff. I have some audio we're going to take a listen to, and I want to inform my listeners exactly what is FARA, what would be considered a FARA violation, because that is exactly what Hunter Biden and Joe Biden should be indicted for, not a gun charge. So first off, let's read into this New York Post article. Let me get it here. All right. So, hat tip to Stephen Nelson and Priscilla DeGregory. Hunter Biden indicted over lies about drug addiction while buying a gun. And so first son Hunter Biden was indicted Thursday in Delaware by special counsel David Weiss. That's another thing we need to touch in because that appointment of David Weiss as a special counsel is a complete fraud. It is a cover-up, and it is completely obvious. It's in broad daylight for everybody to see, and everybody knows it's inappropriate to appoint David Weiss as special counsel, being how he is the exact same prosecutor that made that plea deal to where Hunter Biden would essentially get away with everything. So what does this Department of Justice do? What does the Biden administration do? Appoint him as special counsel. Why not? Right? That goes directly against every single rule in the Department of Justice when it comes to appointing a special counsel. And we got some audio of that from Representative Mike Turner that we're going to get into a little bit later. But let's get back to this article here. By special counsel David Weiss on 3 counts related to lying about being addicted to crack cocaine when he bought a gun nearly 5 years ago, 2 days after House Republicans launched an impeachment inquiry into President Biden's role in Hunter's foreign business dealings. Yeah, so nothing's a coincidence. When these people make a move in the corrupt establishment, it's not a mistake. Everything is on purpose. Everything has a meaning. Nothing is a coincidence there. These people are as corrupt as they come, and they use our government, they use our taxpayer-funded institutions as cover-up machines for their deep state bureaucrats and whoever's on their team. The charges carry a maximum sentence of 25 years in prison, and Hunter, now 53, could face additional criminal cases in D.C. and Los Angeles for tax fraud and illegal foreign lobbying, among other potential counts. The first son is accused of lying about his drug use on a gun purchase from 2018, when he bought a Colt Cobra revolver during a period when he admitted to his 2021 memoir, Beautiful Things, that he was abusing narcotics. Hunter Biden knowingly made a false written statement on the Form 4473 intended and likely to deceive the dealer, the Weiss office said. And then, quote, during an 11-day period between October 12th and October 23rd, 2018, Hunter Biden possessed a firearm while knowing he was an unlawful user of addicted drugs in violation of federal law. The gun was disposed of in a trash can behind a food store on the latter date by first daughter-in-law Haley Biden, who was married to Hunter's brother, Beau, until his death in 2015 and then dated Hunter. This family is ate up, man. This family is like the freaking Jerry Springer show. You guys remember on the 4th of July when Hunter Biden was on the balcony? That guy was high on coke. I'm just going to go ahead and say that out there. I know what it looks like when people are high on coke. He was high on coke. All right? The guy is not off of cocaine. They found cocaine in the White House. Gee, I wonder whose that was. They hid that from the American people. somehow don't have the footage, the most surveilled place probably in the country, and they don't have footage of who it belongs to. That's a lie. We all know that's a lie. And we all know whose it is. Because if it wasn't Hunter Biden's, then they probably would have just released it. My God, folks, we have some mad corruption in our government. Mad. Big time. So deep corruption, man. So that's one of about a dozen crimes that Hunter Biden's committed. And ironically, that's the one crime that he committed that you cannot tie Joe Biden into. House Oversight Committee James Comer told reporters outside the Capitol. He says, quote, "So we'll see what happens when the other 11 or so crimes that the president's son committed." Comer added that the case would absolutely not cause House Republicans to change course on their impeachment inquiry and urged Weiss to bring indictments, quote, "for money laundering, violation of the Foreign Agents Registry Act, FARA, tax evasion," and the list goes on and on. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, who was spearheading the impeachment inquiry into the president, told reporters outside the Capitol that the gun charges needed to be followed by other indictments. Another Republican representative, Matt Gaetz of Florida, told CNN that getting Hunter on the gun charge is like getting Jeffrey Dahmer on littering. It's true, man. It's true. Out of all the crimes this guy has known to commit, they get him on a gun charge. Folks, it is a cover-up. It is a cover-up. It's exactly what it is. And when I get on Twitter and I see radical leftist Democrats talking about how the justice system is being weaponized, you know you're living in some type of George Orwell's 1984 novel. These people are completely oblivious to what is going on. Unless they know what's going on, but they're deliberately saying exactly what's happening to Republicans, they're using. Listen, everything they accuse their opponents of doing, they themselves are guilty of. I've been saying that for years. I said it on the last episode. That is the truth. And not, like I said, 99% of the time, everything that they accuse their opponents of doing, they themselves have done, are doing, or plan on doing in the future. So when I read comments on Twitter or X where I see radical leftist Democrats complaining about the justice system being weaponized against the Bidens, I have to laugh. I have to laugh. You can't get upset. You can't get angry. It's not these people's fault. They are completely clueless. Well, I think some of them are clueless, but I think a lot of them know. A lot of them know what's going on. They do. They do. Because when Donald Trump was first indicted, when they raided Mar-a-Lago and they indicted Donald Trump, all you could see on Twitter was all these people saying, well, he just shouldn't have ran for president. He shouldn't have ran for president, and this wouldn't have happened. And sometimes these people are so dumb, they don't realize what they're saying. That is weaponizing the justice system. When you use the justice system as a tool to target your political opponents for doing something you don't agree with, that is called weaponizing the justice system. And these people don't even realize it. Now they completely deny it. Like, listen, I've called a couple of them out. I wish I would have took screenshots. I called a couple of them out. I was like, dude, you just told me that Donald Trump deserved it because he ran for president. I mean, I'm almost verbatim. This is their quote verbatim. He shouldn't have ran for president, and they wouldn't have indicted him. That's what they said. I'm like, my God, that's like pure weaponization of the justice system right there. So you're telling me that if he didn't run for president, they wouldn't have brought charges? Exactly. We all know that. That's what we've been saying. Even they know that. Until now. So Hunter walked away in July from the plea deal that would have granted him 2 years of probation for failing to pay more than $2 million in taxes on foreign income from countries such as China and Ukraine. As part of that deal, Hunter would have admitted to the gun offense, but it would have been expunged after the completion of probation. The inquiry announced by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will focus on President Biden's involvement in his family's overseas business dealings, which centered on Hunter and first brother James Biden. The impeachment inquiry, announced by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, is focused on the President Biden's alleged involvement in Hunter Biden's first brother James Biden's overseas ventures. Comer said Tuesday that the panel would subpoena the bank records of Hunter and James Biden, including to determine whether any foreign funds flowed to the president. White House spokesman Ian Sams declined to comment on the indictment, saying, quote, "We would refer to you to Hunter's personal representatives or to the Justice Department." Hunter's lawyers and the Justice Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The first son's legal team is expected to argue in court that the diversion agreement remains in effect for the gun offenses. The first son's legal team is expected to argue in court that the gun diversion agreement within the discarded plea deal remains in effect. I don't know how that's possible. But if they did, I guess if he did start probation as part of the agreement, then they have to stick with that. I guess they can't just get rid of it. So I don't know. That may be true. Hunter Biden abandoned the earlier plea deal after his legal team demanded that federal prosecutors affirm at a July 26 court hearing that he had blanket immunity for all past conduct, including alleged violations of FARA that weren't charged in the initial deal. Why would anybody... Why were they trying to get that through the court? Like, I get why you would. I mean, that is a straight up, like, mobster move. Like, that is the plea deal of all plea deals. Oh, well, you just go ahead and rubber stamp this plea deal, judge, and then my client will never, ever be held accountable for any crimes he's ever committed in the past. I mean, it's just like, why wouldn't you want that plea deal? Of course you would. All it took was a judge to ask questions like, is he being investigated for FARA? And then they said, yeah, he is, because they had no choice. It was a big debacle. So I want to go in here. So Cornell University law professor Randy Zeland, who specializes in white-collar criminal defenses, told the Post he expects Biden lawyers to file a Santabella motion arguing that the plea agreement should be enforced. From all indicators, Hunter Biden's lawyers have been honoring their end of the agreement. He's been complying with the terms of the diversion agreement. He's been behaving himself. Their position, I believe, is that they will file a motion to enforce the prior plea agreement, he said. Well, I don't know. Did he get a drug test after the 4th of July? Because I'm telling you, that guy was high. The guy was higher than a hippie on a Ferris wheel on that when he was hanging out on the balcony. You could see it. Anybody that's been around anybody high on coke or crack or anything like that, they know what they look like. And I'm telling you, Hunter Biden was high on something. And so I want to know, did he take a piss test after the 4th of July? I don't know. But I'm telling you, he was on something. Everybody's seen it. The guy's jaw was moving around. He was doing your typical cokehead things. You know, rubbing your head, wiping the sweat off, just sweating profusely, slicking your hair back, you know, walking around. His eyes were the size of nickels. I mean, the guy was high on something. So critics of Weiss' initial handling of the gun and tax charges decried the earlier deal as a sign of preferential treatment. Well, duh. Rapper Kodak Black's lawyer noted at the time that his client was sentenced in 2019 to 46 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to providing an incorrect Social Security number on a federal gun purchase form in order to buy 3 guns from a Miami area shop. 2 tiers of justice, the rapper's attorney Bradford Cohen wrote. Kodak was charged for the same crime, got over 3 years. Mr. Biden will not serve 1 day. Feels right, don't it? Man, is he right. We all see it. We all see this 2-tier of justice. We all do. We've seen it for a long, long time. It's not just now. The only reason why it's so noticeable now is that they're so desperate to cover for Joe Biden. They're doing irrational, radical things that they never would do. But they're doing it in plain daylight, and so everybody can see it. People are more involved right now. People are more up to date. Why? Because of shows like this. Because of alternative media outlets. That's why. Yeah, the alternative media outlets is the corrupt Washington establishment's worst nightmare. Because we're calling out all this stuff. And so it's not just CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC that get to bend and twist the information any way they want anymore. It's up to us. And now you could see people are getting real information. They're getting the truth. And they hate that. That's why the Democrat Party is the party of censorship now. And this is the worst part. Weiss was nominated as U.S. Attorney by former President Donald Trump in 2017. He was recommended to the job by Delaware's 2 Democratic senators who are close Biden allies, and previously was acting U.S. Attorney under President Barack Obama. So every single time that they talk about this guy, David Weiss, being corrupt, they have to bring up that he was appointed by Trump. But yet, do you think the 2 senators that were close to Joe Biden in Delaware, do you think those 2 senators would have nominated somebody that wasn't a Democrat? No. Do you think they would have nominated somebody that supported Donald Trump? Of course not. They nominated a rhino. If this guy probably, for all we know, the guy's not even a Republican. He was just nominated by President Trump in Delaware in order for a U.S. attorney to get elected. They have to be nominated by the senators of that state. The senators of that state are Democrats. They would not have recommended a Trump supporter for the U.S. attorney. They just wouldn't have done it. It just wouldn't have happened. So every time these people mention, oh, well, he was nominated, that doesn't mean nothing. It means jack squat. Nothing. Look at these judges handing down these J6, persecuting these J6, these political prisoners. Look at the sentences these Trump-nominated judges are handing down. They're awful. So just because you're nominated by Donald Trump doesn't mean anything. Look, if there's one thing we all know about Donald Trump, his biggest blind spot was picking people for his cabinet, and there's no bigger mistake than that. I think everybody can recognize that. So the New York Times reported last month that David Weiss said earlier this year that he did not want to bring any charges against Hunter Biden after he allegedly was blocked from bringing tax charges by Biden-appointed U.S. attorneys in the nation's capital and Southern California. Weiss reportedly decided, I keep saying Weiss, it's actually Weiss. My bad. I think I said I've been saying Weiss this whole time. The guy's Weiss. It's U.S. Attorney David Weiss. So Weiss reportedly decided he would charge Hunter Biden only after IRS agent Gary Shapley in April alleged a cover-up in the case, resulting in the announcement of the since-aborted probation-only plea deal in June. Shapley and another whistleblower, IRS case agent Joseph Ziegler, said prosecutors in the Weiss office blocked them from investigating President Biden's alleged role in his son's foreign ventures, despite communications that directly implicated him, such as a threatening July 30th, 2017 WhatsApp message in which Hunter Biden wrote to a Chinese government-linked business associate that he was sitting here with my father, and warned of consequences if a deal was aborted, immediately preceding the flow of $5.1 million to Biden-linked accounts. Oh yeah, folks, but there's no corruption. No. This family's not corrupt. Really? No. I mean, come on. Doesn't everyone do shakedowns of Chinese people and then get $5.1 million wired to their bank accounts? Come on. I know that happens to everybody. It's totally normal, man. Totally normal for a president's son to do that. Totally. It happens all the time. All the time. So Shapley and Ziegler say prosecutors tipped off Hunter Biden to a planned search of a storage unit and an interview approach and were denied full access to Hunter Biden's laptop records and weren't told about an FBI informant file outlining a $10 million Ukraine bribe allegation, which was referred in 2020 to Weiss's office. Attorney General Merrick Garland, who testified twice to Congress that Weiss had the power to bring charges against Hunter Biden outside of Delaware, granted Weiss special counsel powers on August 11th so that he could file tax charges in other jurisdictions. It's a cover-up, folks, is what it is. The whole damn thing's a cover-up. David Weiss is a cover-up. I don't care if he was nominated by Donald Trump. The thing is he was recommended by 2 Democrat senators of Delaware. So him being appointed or nominated by Donald Trump means absolutely nothing because those 2 Democrat senators would not have put up anybody that supported Trump as a U.S. attorney. It wouldn't have happened, so forget about it. Donald Trump, it's not like he goes and has dinner with all these U.S. attorneys that he's appointing. These 2 senators from Delaware probably nominated the biggest rhino, if not the biggest Obama-voting, Biden-donating U.S. attorney that they could find. And this is why. And you know what's even worse? Is the same guy that's responsible for letting the statute of limitations pass on all these crimes Hunter Biden's committed is the same guy that they appoint special counsel to look into Hunter Biden. It's truly incredible, which goes directly against DOJ rules when appointing a special counsel. I mean, it's just, you can read it on paper. On paper, you can read it. The rules of the Department of Justice. Here are the rules for appointing a special counsel. The appointment of a special counsel in the United States is governed by a set of rules and regulations that provide guidance on how and when a special counsel should be appointed. The primary rules and procedures for appointing a special counsel are outlined as follows. Number 1, authority to appoint. The authority to appoint a special counsel rests with the Attorney General of the United States, or in certain cases, the acting Attorney General. In some situations, the Attorney General may be recused from a particular matter, in which the authority may be delegated to a higher-ranking official within the Department of Justice. Number 2, regulations governing special counsels. The appointment of special counsels is subject to the regulations set forth in 28 CFR Section 600. These regulations lay out the procedures and criteria for appointing a special counsel. Number 3, criminal investigation. Special counsels are typically appointed to conduct criminal investigations into specific matters that may involve conflicts of interest within the Department of Justice, such as investigations involving high-ranking government officials. The Attorney General or Acting Attorney General should determine that a criminal investigation is warranted. Well, that right there, why would you appoint Weiss after the guy has already been involved in all these shenanigans with the plea deal in the Department of Justice? This guy was working with the Department of Justice to come up with that plea deal. That plea deal that just so happened to grant blanket immunity to Hunter Biden and all his past crimes. That plea deal that got scrapped because a judge asked questions about FARA violations. And then that's the guy that they appoint as special counsel? Come on, man. That is, inappropriate is an understatement of the year. So specific jurisdiction. The Attorney General specifies the jurisdiction of the special counsel, defining the scope of their authority, which matters they are authorized to investigate, and any additional investigative powers they may have. Independence. Here's number 5. Here's the big one. Special counsels are expected to operate independently of the Department of Justice in conducting their investigations. They have a degree of independence to make decisions regarding prosecutorial matters. So the big deal about this whole David Weiss, the gun charges, all of it. People think David Weiss is inappropriate for this job because he was the one that allowed the statute of limitations to pass on all the crimes Hunter Biden committed back in 2014 and 15. Almost a year to the date. The reason why there was miscommunication back on the first time that Merrick Garland said he gave him special counsel privileges was because it was still within statute of limitations. So if David Weiss, mind you, the guy's been investigating it for 5 years at this time. 5 years investigating Hunter Biden. And how long were they investigating Donald Trump for whatever reason? What did they held a whole impeachment hearing in like 2 weeks. So 5 years this guy was investigating Hunter Biden, and then he allowed the statute of limitations to pass, and then this is the same guy they appointed as special counsel to reinvestigate Hunter Biden for completely different crimes. So essentially, he got away scot-free for all the crimes that he committed under David Weiss's watch. This is why people are pissed off. So this guy essentially got away with all this stuff. And it's not just me that says this. Here's Mike Turner. I got some audio from Mike Turner who talks about this same exact thing on Meet the Nation. Here, check this out.
We're joined now by the Republican chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Ohio Congressman Mike Turner. It's good to have you back in studio. And I want to get you on a number of national security fronts, but you also sit on House Oversight, which is investigating the president's son, Hunter, and has called for U.S. Attorney David Weiss, now Special Counsel Weiss, to come and testify. Do you have confidence in him and his ability to conclude this in a fair way?
Well, obviously there are concerns. One, like Catherine Heritage, I also looked at the appointment, and the appointment seems more narrow than what Bill Barr had given him. The Attorney General Barr, this says that it's limited to the case that was brought before him initially, that's the scope, instead of all of the matters related to unpaid taxes. The concern here, obviously, with Barr being special counsel, Weiss being special counsel, is that he was the one that allowed the statute of limitations to expire on some very critical felony charges that could have been brought against Hunter Biden.
Why would he have done that?
The IRS whistleblower said that
You hear how just these people are not dumb, folks. Like this Catherine Heritage, she knows that there's corruption. Why do they pretend to play dumb? Why would they do that? You know why they would do that. Why would they allow the statute of limitations to expire? Because it's corrupt. The whole damn thing's corrupt. That's why. These people act so dumb. They act like people, they really do feel like the American people are dumb, and they can't see any of this. Me, however, have a lot of faith in the American people, and that is why a CNN poll that just was released says that the majority of Americans believe Joe Biden was involved in Hunter Biden's business dealings. Because the American people are not dumb. These people, like Catherine Heritage, Joe and Mika, they live in their sky-rise condos, their $5 million flats in Manhattan, and they just look down on the American people like they're a bunch of rubes. They actually think the American people are dumb. Well, why would he do that? I think we all know why he would do that. The only reason why you would allow statute of limitations to expire is if you wanted them to. I mean, you don't investigate something for 7 years and then not do anything. I guarantee you on that final day, you probably had liquor cabinets opening all across the land. I bet he had probably a giant Coke party with a bunch of strippers because he just got away with all these crimes. And it was our Department of Justice, our taxpayer-funded institutions that all allowed it to happen, except for these 2 whistleblowers. The 2 brave whistleblowers and all the whistleblowers at the FBI. These 2 IRS whistleblowers came forth because they seen the level of corruption. This is exactly what whistleblowers are supposed to do. When they see something inappropriate, they are supposed to come forward. Nobody listened to them, and they came forward and they blew the whistle. And they said, this guy allowed the statute of limitations to expire, period. So that's why he would do that. This lady's an idiot. An idiot. I don't think she's an idiot. I think she knows. But the fact is she thinks everyone else is an idiot. And so they just play dumb. This is what these people do. They play dumb. They play word games and semantics. They're just awful people, dude. Awful people. All right, let's get back to Mike Turner.
Was that interference from the Department of Justice. There's some question as to whether or not it's prosecutorial misconduct, but it certainly could be, prosecutorial malpractice. In any event, when you've been given the charge to handle claims of such explosive nature and allow the statute of limitations to expire, resulting in, Hunter Biden has in his pocket $125,000 worth of taxes that were owed to the United States that as a result of these being expired remain in his pocket.
Why would a U.S. attorney appointed by President Trump working under a Republican attorney general with career prosecutors have that level of conspiracy?
Well, it's not conspiracy. That actually occurred. That those
to deliberately allow for the statute of limitations to pass.
I think those are questions that he has to answer.
Okay.
I know why did this occur? The IRS whistleblowers said that it was interference from the Department of Justice that allowed them to expire. The prosecutor, Weiss, had been working with Hunter Biden and his attorney and actually getting waivers for those statute of limitations period. And he stopped getting the waivers. So he certainly was knowledgeable, aware that it was going to be expiring. And then something occurred where he allowed those to expire. But, also his appointment is coming right on the heels of James Comer's release of bank records that indicate that we're now up to $20 million worth of funds that came from foreign sources.
Right, allegations in this, but
they're actual bank records. These are not. No, the bank records are right up. The bank records are right on the website of the House Oversight Committee. Over $20 million released August 9th that went to Hunter Biden, his family, and business associates that come from China, Russia. As the chairman of the
Did you hear? Yeah, the allegations. No, lady, there's records. There's actually bank accounts. There's records. You can actually go look them up. I did. You can go on the House Oversight website. You can look at these bank records. There's literally money being transferred from foreign nations, foreign businesses, from foreign countries into Biden's bank accounts. That is called evidence. That is not allegations. That's not allegations. No, that's called evidence. So for people to sit there and say that there's no evidence, I'm really tired of hearing there's no evidence. There is a skyscraper-sized pile of evidence of corruption. These people just don't even want to look at it. I mean, this is what they do. They sit there, so it's just allegations. So no, lady, it's not allegations. This is real. Like Hunter Biden just got away with $125,000 he didn't pay to taxes. Now, I want to know, would any of you out there in the audience, would any of you get away with not paying $125,000 in taxes? Nope. Nobody would. The only people that would be allowed to get away with stealing $125,000 in taxes is if your last name is Biden. That is it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called corruption. And when you have two IRS whistleblowers that come forward and blow the whistle and say, hey, we see improprieties here, we see special treatment, we see corruption, that's when you know you got corruption. And not only that, but David Weiss was getting waivers, essentially informing him that the statute of limitations was coming up to expire, and he did nothing. He just let it expire. Like I said, Hunter Biden was probably smoked more crack, probably did more coke, drank more booze than he ever has in his entire life that night when that statute of limitations just expired. That guy probably felt like he just got a second chance at life. Or maybe he didn't. These people are extremely arrogant. The Bidens are really arrogant. He probably expected to get away with everything. I mean, he's a Biden, right? No one's touching a Biden. Bidens don't go to jail. Bidens don't get caught. They got the whole government. They got the entire Department of Justice covering for them, baby. Do you have the Department of Justice covering for you when you commit a crime? How about this? How about this year, you don't pay your taxes to the IRS and see if they'll let the statute of limitations pass on that money and just the government let you keep it. Why don't you go ahead and try that? No, actually don't, because that would be me giving you advice that would end up putting you in jail, because for anybody else, that's exactly what would happen. 125,000, and that's not even all of it, folks. This is just a tiny piece of this, a tiny piece. We're not even talking about him shaking down a Chinese oligarch, talking about how I'm sitting right next to my father, and then a couple days later you get $3.1 or $5.1 million wired to your shell companies, to a Biden bank account. This is not allegations. This is what happened. You can actually see it on paper, on a website. Go to it. You can read it. You can see all these bank accounts. It's truly incredible how these people are still claiming that there's no evidence. I mean, it's almost like, I don't know, man. It's almost like they're living in the Matrix. They're just like completely, I don't know. It's like they're in extreme denialism. I actually had a listener comment on one of my videos, and he suggested that. I said they're in an echo chamber, and he says he agrees somewhat, but he thinks it's denialism. And I have to say I agree with him. They're in an echo chamber, but anytime they kind of venture out of the echo chamber, they put up this wall of denialism. That's essentially what we're watching right now. These people keep saying that there's no evidence. There's evidence. I'm sorry, but there is. And granted, they might say, oh yeah, but that's evidence of Hunter Biden. No. Because that's exactly what we're going to be getting into next. And so before we move on to the next point in FARA violations, I want you to listen to the IRS whistleblowers that said David Weiss deliberately allowed the statute of limitations to expire on Hunter Biden's tax crimes. Here, check this out.
In November of 2022, the statute of limitations was set to expire for the 2014 and 2015 charges in D.C., which included the 2014 felonies for the attempt to evade or defeat tax and fraud or false statement regarding bereavement income earned by Hunter Biden in those years. The statute of limitations had been extended through a tolling agreement with Hunter Biden's defense counsel, and they were willing to extend it past November 2022. Weiss allowed those to expire.
So that was the waivers Mike Turner was talking about. So David Weiss was sent waivers saying, look, we will allow this to go past the statute of limitations. Just sign this or send it back to us or acknowledge that you got it, whatever it was. Nope, the guy didn't do nothing. Just allowed it all to expire. Why would you do that? What other reason would you do that for? So you're investigating this for 5, 6, 7 years, and then you allow the statute of limitations to deliberately expire, even though these people are sending you waivers, offering an extension to the statute of limitations? Like, why else would you do it? And this is what's the craziest thing, is Merrick Garland appointed this guy that allowed the statute of limitations to expire as special counsel to reinvestigate Hunter Biden's new crimes, the gun crimes. You cannot get any more corrupt than what we are watching right here. I mean, it is in your face, man. It is in your face. Anybody that does not see this is in denialism. Whoever left that comment on my show, I agree with you 100%. That is exactly the word, denialism. Exactly the word. And so you have to ask yourself, well, why did he allow this to expire? Why would he do it? He had special counsel powers. He could have, made charges. He could have indicted within 7 years. So why didn't he indict? When this elite team of IRS investigators have spent years investigating Hunter Biden and nothing happens. And think of how pissed off you would be if you spent your 6 years of your life, all the blood, sweat, and tears went into investigating this guy, and this guy, David Weiss, allows the statute of limitations to expire, essentially letting Hunter Biden off scot-free. Why would anybody do that? The only reason I can think of is if he had outside influence from somebody from the Department of Justice. And that's exactly what Mike Turner was talking about, how there was somebody at the Department of Justice influencing David Weiss to allow the statute of limitations to expire. And it's not just Mike Turner that says it. The IRS whistleblower, Ziegler, made that statement in that House Oversight hearing when he was giving his sworn testimony. And I got that audio right here. Check this out.
You also testified that Assistant United States Attorney Leslie Wolf told you that you would get into hot water if interviewed the president's grandchildren. In other cases that you've worked over your career, have you ever had a prosecutor tell you that you couldn't interview a relevant witness?
So there are certain things that come into whether we talk to a witness or not. So if they're an attorney, if there's some special situation that might come up, that might cause caution to interviewing that witness, but I've never been told that we couldn't approach someone to interview them as a part of an investigation. Yeah, I mean, there's certain situations to where you have to do a further analysis of the information that you might get if they're, like I said, if they're an attorney. But yeah, so in this case, we needed to talk to witnesses related to things that were deducted on the tax return. And in this case, it was the adult children that we needed to talk to.
And they were denied. Why would you obstruct an investigation? Why? Why would this U.S. Attorney Wolf obstruct in the investigation? Because the investigation involved Joe Biden. That's why. This elite team of IRS investigators, it's not just 2 of them. There was like 12 or 13 of them. Only 2 were brave enough to come forward because they knew it would probably be the end of their career and maybe even the end of their life. I mean, seeing how Democrats treat whistleblowers that go against the narrative, I wouldn't want to be a whistleblower against the Democrats. Very brave. These 2 people are exactly the type of Americans we need in this country. And this one guy, Ziegler, he's a gay Democrat. A gay Democrat. These people are exactly the type of people that we need in our government. Not the type of people we have now. Well, that's just allegations. Well, why would anybody do that? Come on, lady. You know why. So these IRS whistleblowers, this elite IRS investigative team, was obstructed by the Department of Justice. And you might ask, well, why not just bring David Weiss in to ask him these questions? Well, that would be nice, except Merrick Garland appointed him special counsel. So he's not going to come in to testify because it's about a case that he can't answer any questions on. These people, I'm telling you, are so corrupt, but they're very smart, very cunning, very evil. Very, very evil people. These people are, I mean, you're talking about a deep state swamp. You're talking about a corrupt Washington establishment swamp that has been doing this for decades. Decades. And so these people know exactly what to do to protect somebody. They know exactly what to do to destroy somebody. And they use the taxpayer-funded weapons and tools to do it. This is what everybody's pissed off about. And so you might say, yeah, but this is all Hunter Biden. What does Joe Biden have to do with this? Well, that's a good question. And Mark Levine was talking about this weeks ago. We talked about this in our last episode, is you don't have to link Joe Biden to anything. You don't have to link any money to Joe Biden, though that would be nice. I mean, it would be another stack of evidence on top of the skyscraper-sized stack of evidence. So that would be nice if you could find a bank account that directly links Joe Biden, but you don't have to. not if Joe Biden was a co-conspirator in Hunter Biden's FARA violations. So that's where this word FARA comes in. And so I want to go ahead and get into what is FARA. So we talked about this. We did this a while back ago, but I don't think I really hit it home the last time we talked about FARA violations and what is FARA and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and just summarize it real quick, and that way you guys know what it is. So when people start talking about this in the coming weeks, you know exactly what they're talking about. And not only am I going to tell you what FARA is, I'm going to tell you how Joe Biden is a co-conspirator in FARA. So FARA stands for Foreign Agents Registration Act. It is a United States federal law that was enacted in 1938. FARA is designed to promote transparency and accountability when it comes to activities conducted within the United States on behalf of foreign governments, foreign political parties, or other foreign entities. Under FARA, individuals and organizations that engage in various political lobbying, public relations, or other activities to influence U.S. policy, public opinion, or the American public on behalf of foreign interests are required to register with the U.S. Department of Justice. The registration includes disclosing information about their activities, finances, and relationships with foreign entities. Hunter Biden did not register under FARA. So therefore, all this money that we know he's getting from other countries is all a violation of FARA. And then so you might ask again, so how does that involve Joe Biden? Well, Joe Biden would be a co-conspirator in Hunter Biden's FARA violations. And so, first of all, let's figure out what is a FARA violation. So some FARA violations would include a failure to register, incomplete or false information, concealment of financial transactions, which would mean not disclosing financial transactions, contributions, or payments received from foreign entities related to FARA-covered activities. So therefore, that $125,000 that Hunter Biden just got to walk away with in his pocket because David Weiss allowed the statute of limitations to expire, that would be a violation of FARA. So unauthorized expenditures, unauthorized representation, lobbying without registration. So lobbying, so when you call up a Chinese oligarch and you say, you better have my money, and if you mess with me, I have my father standing right next to me, so you better make sure that that money's in my account. When you shake down a Chinese oligarch and you use your dad as a tool or a weapon to influence that people's decision, and then a few days later you get millions of dollars sent to your bank account, that would mean Joe Biden is a co-conspirator in FARA. All right? So Hunter Biden violated FARA while his dad was a co-conspirator. And just to really knock it out of the park with, or what is or what would be a co-conspirator to FARA violations, in the context of FARA violations, a co-conspirator refers to an individual or entity that collaborates with somebody who is violating FARA regulations by engaging in unregistered activities on behalf of a foreign government, foreign political party, or other foreign entities. Co-conspirators are typically individuals or organizations that knowingly assist or participate in the unlawful activities related to FARA violations. To be considered a co-conspirator in FARA violations, one generally needs to meet the following criteria. Number 1, knowledge. They must have knowledge of the unlawful activities related to FARA violations. In other words, they are aware that the activities being undertaken are not in compliance with FARA requirements. So when you are sitting next to your son, while your son is shaking down a Chinese oligarch, and then a few days later you get millions of dollars sent to your bank account, would that not be Joe Biden assisting his son in a FARA violation? I think so. And what's even more corrupt is these two IRS whistleblowers knew about that WhatsApp message where Hunter Biden was shaking down the Chinese oligarch. They tried to get a warrant to get the geolocation to see if indeed Joe Biden was next to his son when making that phone call, and they denied them. They denied him. They wouldn't let them look into it. That's called obstructing. You think they'd do that for Donald Trump? I don't know. All right, number 2. They actively participate or collaborate with the primary individual or entity engaged in the FARA violations. This collaboration can take various forms, such as providing financial support, advice, or assistance in carrying out unlawful activities. All right, number 3, intent. They share the intent to further the goals of the FARA violations. This means that they are working together with the primary violator to achieve the objectives on the unregistered foreign influence activities. All right, So essentially, in layman's terms, it would mean if you drove somebody to go rob a bank, even though you did not get any of the money, you still would be a co-conspirator in bank robbery. That's essentially what we're dealing with. So when these people keep saying that there's no evidence directly tying Joe Biden to this, tying Joe Biden to that, there doesn't have to be. Okay? There doesn't have to be. If you're looking into FARA violations, which it is proven, it's pretty obvious Hunter Biden violated FARA, then that would make Joe Biden a co-conspirator in FARA violations. And also, one of the biggest things that the impeachment inquiry is going to be looking at is most notably the Burisma, that whole quid pro quo of Joe Biden leveraging $1 billion in taxpayer aid to Ukraine if they didn't fire the prosecutor that was investigating Burisma that his son just happened to be working at. I don't know, that doesn't look really corrupt either. So you guys remember when they impeached Donald Trump for, what was that again? They claimed he was what? Oh yeah, leveraging aid to Ukraine. That's right. And then here it is, Joe Biden was leveraging $1 billion in taxpayer aid to Ukraine? To what? To get a prosecutor fired that was investigating his son? I don't know, folks. That doesn't look corrupt to me at all. What evidence do you got? Come on, man. There's no evidence. And also, is it not insane how it's the Biden administration trying to take people's guns? And here it is, it's his son that gets caught lying on a gun form. And then his fiance or wife, which used to be his brother's wife, some real Jerry Springer stuff. Is it not crazy how his son buys a gun illegally by lying on a gun form? I mean, the hypocrisy in these people knows no bounds. It is so thick you can cut it with a knife. And so the utter hypocrisy from these people is off the charts. They're always lecturing people about how dangerous gun owners are. But yet, here it is, it's Joe Biden's son, the guy that's trying to take people's guns away, lying on a federal gun form. Go figure. Look, my rule stands firm. Everything they accuse their opponents of doing, they themselves are guilty of. So, just thought I wanted to add that in there as the utter hypocrisy continues and the utter weaponization of the justice system against Joe Biden's political opponents and Democrats' political opponents in general. So, and I'll also add this, that if it was me and you that lied on a federal gun form, what do you think would happen to us? Exactly. Our asses would be going to jail. That's exactly what would be happening to us. But listen, if you got the last name Biden, you are good. You have nothing to worry about. So maybe we should all start changing our last name to Biden. No wonder why they didn't want to give their 7th granddaughter the name Biden. Man, these people are incredible, man. Very, very... These are not good people. This is not a good family. They are nothing they told you they were. They are everything they told you the Trump family was. This goes to show the power of the media, man. And guess what? When you say something long enough, if you drill the propaganda into people's heads long enough, eventually they're going to believe it. And that's exactly what we have now. Except now these people that have been brainwashed for 8 years are now suffering from the most serious cases of denialism I think we've ever witnessed. So, there you go, folks. And we can go on and on and on. The reason why these people are freaking out of impeachment is because they know Joe Biden is corrupt as they come. The man has always been corrupt. He's been corrupt his entire damn career. He's been a liar, a plagiarist, and he has been doing this for the last 50 years. He is the biggest welfare queen that we ever had in this country. This guy has the audacity to collect a paycheck from the American taxpayer as he is going around the world, flying his son around, making corrupt business deals, and 10% going to the big guy. This is the type of corruption that the American people are afraid of. This is exactly what the American people are talking about when they talk about corruption in our politics. It's people exactly like Joe Biden and his entire damn family. And not only that, but I just wish there was other politicians that had idiot kids that left their laptops at computer repair stores, because I guarantee you there's a hell of a lot more corruption than just this. So the impeachment inquiry is just to give them subpoena power to get into other bank accounts. That just gives them more power to look into the stuff a little bit more vigorously, because these banks, these people are obstructing every single thing they can. I wonder if that happened to Donald Trump. No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they had a judge that forced the release of Donald Trump's tax returns. Well, where's the judge? Where's the judge taking away Joe Biden's executive privilege? So you mean to tell me after Joe Biden leaves the office that there's going to be a judge that Donald Trump can strip Joe Biden of his executive privilege like Joe Biden stripped the executive privilege from Donald Trump? I don't know. Because that's exactly what happened. Folks, this is so corrupt. This justice system has been so weaponized. It has been turned into a weapon against the American people. The scariest thing to me, it's not China, it's not nukes in Russia, it's not North Korea. The scariest thing to me is the Biden administration. This administration horrifies me. And the level of power that it has over the American people, and not just the power that it has, but their shamelessness in using it against American people. That is what terrifies me. The arrogance. The level of resentment that the Biden administration has for the American people that voted for Trump. That's what terrifies me. So, I hope I really hit this one home this time. Mark Levine's been really into the co-conspirator FARA violations. He was on it from day one. I wanted my listeners to know exactly what FARA was. I wanted to know what a co-conspirator of FARA would be. And I wanted you to hear how the Department of Justice is intertwined in all of this. The Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, is the rot that is destroying our justice system right now. It is destroying the trust and credibility in our justice system, and it's just completely destroying all credibility in our DOJ. All of it is gone. And Christopher Wray is the Merrick Garland of the FBI. He's destroying the trust and credibility in our intel agencies. And trust me, it goes so much deeper with so many more players involved. This was all I could manage to get up and squeeze into one show. I just want people to be aware what FARA is, because this is what all of this is about. Nobody gives a flying crap what Joe Biden's crackhead son does. Really. Nobody cares. Everybody wants to know that their president isn't selling out their country. And apparently, based off the skyscraper-sized stack of evidence that we have of Joe Biden, that's exactly what Joe Biden was doing, selling out our country for millions and millions of dollars. Folks, you don't... the one question I always ask these people on the other side, what goods and service were the Bidens providing to earn millions, tens of millions of dollars? And that's just what we know of. Nancy Mace is saying north of $50 million. That's just what we know of. Because if there's one thing you got to know about money laundering and racketeering and this type of corruption when it deals with this money in foreign countries, is most people don't do it on inshore accounts. Okay? Most people do it on offshore accounts. So the records that they have right now, this is all just onshore accounts that they had that were given to them. So imagine if there's offshore accounts, how much money is in those. I'm telling you, folks, the whole damn thing is corrupt. That whole family is corrupt beyond all belief. I cannot believe the American people voted for Joe Biden. I can't believe it. I don't believe it. This is why I think the guy was installed. Every day that goes by, more corruption comes out on this family. Every day that goes by, we learn about more corruption of the Biden family, the DOJ, and the entire Washington establishment swamp. Every single day. And this is what makes people question how the American people, being as smart as they are, being as wise as they are, and having as much common sense as the American people do, how they would ever vote for somebody like Joe Biden. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. The only way somebody like Joe Biden gets past the American people is by cheating. And that's exactly what happened. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be something we're going to be getting into in the next episode. Because there's a big court case going on right now with John Eastman at the California bar. It's a California bar trial. And because they're trying to disbar him, go figure, real fascists. These people are straight up fascists. So there's this group called Project 65 that was specifically built after 2020 to target Donald Trump and any attorney that would represent him. Tell me that's not fascist. So that he can't get legal representation. Trust me, I've never seen anything more fascist than that. It makes you wonder who funds this Project 65. That's something else we're going to be getting into. But John Eastman is in a trial right now, and it's his turn to argue his case, and he is absolutely wrecking these people with all the reasons why they challenged the 2020 election. Because really what they're trying to say is that Donald Trump should have never challenged the 2020 election, that election was completely legit, there was no fraud, and Joe Biden won and Donald Trump lost. And there's no way, there's no amount of fraud that would have changed that. Well, listen, the case John Eastman is making should make all these people question the 2020 election, because it is shocking. And so that's exactly what we're going to be getting into in the next episode. I haven't heard anybody talking about it, but to me, that is the most important case happening right now, because it goes through all the evidence and all the reasons why in these states they had every right to challenge the 2020 election for the scam, fraud election that it was. John Eastman challenges all of it, especially the last-minute law changes, unconstitutional law changes in these states weeks and months before the election, about how states were counting ballots they shouldn't have been counting, on how states were counting unverifiable ballots and unverified ballots. All that stuff should have never happened. And so therefore, those ballots should have never been counted. And therefore, if those ballots were never counted, that means Donald Trump probably would have won. So that's how you cheat in an election. Folks, we got to make sure that this doesn't happen again in 2024. We have to. And so just be prepared. This is why I think they're going to do something like COVID, or they're going to go into war with Russia. They're going to do something crazy, just like what happened in 2020, because it worked so well for them. Because now everyone's going to think twice about challenging a Democrat election. Because look, you challenge a Democrat election, your ass might be going to prison. So that's the exact message these people want to send. You challenge our elections, you go to jail. We will imprison you for the rest of your life. Don't ever challenge King Biden. These people are frauds. They are phonies. They are the destroyers of this country. And they must be defeated in 2024. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I will leave these articles in my podcast description. Make sure you read them, especially about I'm trying to think of how I can do this. I'm going to leave all the documents to, I'm going to leave all the documents, the legal documents. I'm going to leave the federal code regulations documents, that 28 CFR section 600 that talks about the appointment of a special counsel. I'm going to leave that in my podcast description so you guys can read through it, and you'll know exactly why David Weiss should have never, ever been appointed as special counsel. Ever. And the reason why it looks shady as hell and it looks improper is because it is. Completely corrupted, a complete weaponized justice system, and it's all being done by the Biden administration. We have never been closer to a fascist totalitarian regime than we are right now. And it's all been brought to you by the Democrat Party and the Biden administration. So when they said, we're going to fundamentally change this country, they meant it. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in. Please, if you could, share the show with your friends and family. Get them up to date so that they know exactly what FARA violations are. They know what the Foreign Agents Registration Act is. Get them involved. Like I said, we need an army of informed citizens so that everybody knows what is going on, so that they can spread the word. We need a bunch of Paul Reveres is what we need. We need a bunch of John Jays. We need a bunch of people that are up to date and informed with all this stuff so that they can share and spread the word to their friends and family so that they're up to date, and so on and so forth. Look, they're not going to fool the American people again. They're done. Their days of corruption are over. The veil has been pulled off of these people. They are exposed more now than ever, and this is why they're getting so desperate. So make sure you share the show with your friends and family. Get the word out there. Again, you can find the show on YouTube and Rumble. If you want to get a hold of me at StephenTaurielloShow@gmail.com. We are on all podcast platforms. If your friends and family want to download the podcast, I really appreciate that. That helps out the show. And also subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on Rumble, all that good stuff. And one more thing, TGIF, baby. I hope you guys had a great week, and I want you guys to have a good weekend. I'm going to be making content all weekend for you guys. Once again, I'm going to put something out on Saturday. I'm going to put something out on Sunday. We're going to be right back at it, a whole new week again on Monday with a bunch of new content. There's a bunch of stuff to talk about, and we're going to try and get into all of the major stories, and not just the major stories, but stuff I think is important for you to know as well. It's one thing to talk about what everyone else is talking about, but one thing I want to make sure we do on this show is inform you with stuff that everybody's not talking about. That, to me, is more important. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to have a good day, have a good Friday, have a good weekend. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. God bless you, and God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.